No matter where you are on your path, you can start anew. You can give yourself permission to pick yourself up and carry on. This may seem difficult when you feel like the world is against you, or that things aren't going your way, or things are getting worse. Always go back to the breath. Go back to the breath and start from where you are at. This is the starting point. Right here, right now. This is the starting point. Do you often wonder why things don't go your way? Why you say, I want $1 million, and $1 million doesn't show up in your bank account? It's because of what's going on in your subconscious mind. In your subconscious mind is where you're going to find more of the answers to the riddle for why you keep creating certain outcomes in your life. And yes, you are creating those outcomes. I want you to get beyond the idea of the world happens to me, things happen to me, people are doing things to me. See if you can make an adjustment in your thinking to realize or even consider that there's no such thing as a victim. Now, this is not going to make sense to the mind, which has a program running that says, but of course there's a victim. I didn't ask to get hit by that car that day by that crazy driver. I didn't ask for this teacher to be so cruel to me, right? But in the bigger scheme of things, we are self-creating. And you may ask yourself, why? Why would I do such a thing? Why would I create adversity or what I think is bad luck? Why would I create that in my life? And the reason is for the wisdom, for the experience of it. What ends up happening as we lay down our sword, we give up the blame attitude and the victim consciousness. We come clean with ourselves of our side of the street. What was my attitude going into that situation? When somebody's maybe going out of their lane to pick a fight with you, did you participate? Did you pick up your sword? Did you pick up the mud and start slinging mud back? So what's your part in it? When we go against our inner knowing, we are in treason to ourselves. We're in treason to God. God's highest law is love. When we have an instinct, an inner knowing, a gut instinct, and we ignore it, we often end up in some sort of adverse circumstance, right? So if you get really real with yourself and you go back and you admit some of the things, fleeting thoughts, I'll share one with you. This is really brutal to admit, but it's true. I had a real wake-up call right before I was going to get married years ago. And I'm now since divorced, been divorced for many years. But I felt like God was basically taking a sledgehammer and trying to get me to realize that it wasn't a high choice for me to marry at that time. Okay. And nothing against the man because he's a good guy. I was emotionally immature. The circumstances weren't right. I don't think we were equally yoked. I don't think we were right aligned for each other, right? It was a good experience for me though, right? Because then I learned no mistakes, only wisdom. So if you learn the wisdom from what you view to be a mistake, there's no such thing as a mistake. But if you view it as a mistake, oh man, I really messed up there. This is why self-forgiveness is so important. Because if you cannot get beyond the guilt of making a mistake, that can be debilitating for you. Guilt is a worthless emotion. Now, if you ever feel guilty, just go right into it and feel it, allow it, and allow it to move through you. Because if you don't, it will be debilitating. Feeling guilty or horrible about yourself over something you should or shouldn't have done will stop you from living a fulfilled life. That's how debilitating it can be. And those who are stuck in chronic guilt have a hard time getting up and starting again. Okay? So we have to forgive ourselves and move on. But what I was going to share with you is on about a week, maybe week and a half before my wedding, I got in a horrible car accident. I was rear-ended. I got whiplash really bad. My car was totaled. It was really awful. And my mom was even teasing me. She said, "Oh, we'll just put a little satin around your neck brace. We'll put a brooch." Like I was going to wear that down the aisle, you know. Um, but I really think it was God saying, "Hey, woman, young lady, what are you doing?" Right? But I wasn't listening. I was like, well, the invitations are already sent out. Well, I'm doing what I think my family wants me to do, or society wants me to do. I'm doing what I think my church wants me to do. And this was all in my head. Nobody was saying do this or do that. It was just my agreement with the outside world and how I perceive the outside world and what I should be doing, right? But what we should be doing is listening to our gut instinct and our inner knowing. So right as I was walking down the aisle, this is my big confession. Right, I was just getting ready to walk down the aisle and I had a thought, well, if it doesn't work out, we can always get a divorce. Now that is something to admit. Okay. But that wasn't real obvious to me. And I went through many years. We were married for 7 years. And before that, we were together, I believe it was 5 years. So we were engaged for a long time. Okay. And then it didn't work out. And we did end up getting a divorce. And I learned great wisdom from that. But if I would have listened to my gut instinct and my inner knowing, I might have been able to avoid some of the suffering that I endured. Okay. And it was self inflicted. All right. I'm taking full responsibility for my life, my actions. And, when we go against our inner knowing, we do end up suffering. Okay. So, being in integrity with oneself, telling oneself the truth. This is the truth. Now, the world is filled with lies. Many people are lying all over the place. We've been lied to since we were born. Um, that's a whole other story. And you can visit our website, americansinaction.info, to learn about some of the lies that we've been told from the time we were born all the way through. It's pretty sad. It's a big reveal right now, revelation, big reveal going on. But the most important aspect is what we need to do to reveal to ourselves. Where do we lie to ourselves? Or where do we go into an agreement with something that someone told us a long time ago that was not true, but we believed it as truth? We can have siblings say horrible, mean things to us when we're children. And if we go into agreement and lock that into our thinking, that plants a seed deep in the subconscious mind. Because when we're young, we're so impressionable. We're innocent, right? So that's when these implants go into the mind. And we are running our lives off of these implants. I call it an implant. It's a program. It was implanted through the thought into an open mind. And then we decide, probably at the subconscious level, we decide to go into agreement with that. Well, if the outside world is telling me that I'm a piece of shit, then it must be true. And I'm saying to you, no, a lie is still a lie, no matter how many times it has been told, or by who. So when you are lying to yourself, saying you're not worth this, or not worth that, or I don't deserve $1 million. That's deep in the subconscious mind. We're not aware that these thoughts even exist. And so this is where the outcomes of our creation are coming from. They're not coming from the conscious mind where I'm saying, oh, yes, I want $1 million. And then I look to my bank account and it's not reflecting that. It's like, wait a minute. Well, if I say I want this, then why don't I have it if I'm self-creating? It's because of the lies we tell it to ourselves at a deeper level. So the key to revelation, reveal to yourself the lies that you tell yourself. Ask yourself, where am I lying to myself? And then go back to the breath. And you have to admit some things about yourself that you might judge to be horrible, terrible, or not worthy of God's love. And this is where we get real, is real. Getting real with the self or an entrusted friend. This is why I believe that Catholics designed confession, because when we confess whatever we judge ourselves to, a sin or a crime, really the only sin that exists is when we go against our inner knowing. That's out of integrity. So we've divorced ourselves from kingdom of heaven and we've gone against our inner knowing, which is God's highest will, which is God's law. But when you are in alignment with God's highest law, you're listening to your gut instinct, your inner knowing, that's telling you, hey, it's not a good idea to get involved with this man, or at least at this time, or whatever. Okay? Nothing personal against him. He's a good guy. So, but you forgive yourself, you forgive all others. You forgive yourself, you forgive all others. And then we end up realizing that even sin is an illusion. We're here to experience life. We are experiencing. When we judge our behavior, these are times when we've gone against our inner knowing, when we judge that about ourselves. So we end up self-punishing. Any outside inflicted punishment would be a clue to share with you how you really feel about yourself, or what's going on at the subconscious level that is creating these outcomes. How do we go beyond that limitation of punishment, be it in third dimensional form coming from another, or self-inflicted? Something I use is the breath. As you all know, going back to the breath is key. Telling myself a higher truth, so telling ourselves a higher truth. This is key. The truth will set you free. If the truth will set you free and you don't feel free, do you feel like you're trapped in a cage? Cage of the mind, cage of what I would call dense emotions, betrayal, anguish, guilt, blame, right? Desperation. If you're trapped in that, you have the tools to set yourself free. No one's going to come save you. You have to save yourself. No one's going to come save you. You have to save yourself. That's pretty brutal. That's a harsh reality. I have to save myself? Yeah, you do. It's like going to the bathroom. Nobody can do it for you. You have to do the work. You have to come clean within yourself. In equity, those of you might know that I teach true law, and God's highest law form is trust. In trust, they have what's called maxims of equity. In order to receive equity, which is synonymous with fairness, in order to receive fairness, one must give fairness. In order to receive fairness, one must give fairness. Well, where are we mostly unfair? Well, sometimes in harsh judgments towards others, okay, but mostly right here. It's the harsh judgment of the self. How can we be fair with ourselves when we judge our actions? Some of us judge our every breath, judge that we even live. We judge that we even exist. How can we come clean with that? Admit it. Just simply admit it, that it's there. Okay. Getting real is real. Deep opinions that one holds about the self. How do you really feel about yourself? How do you really feel about yourself? Okay. So these are questions you ask yourself. It's not for me to answer or anyone else. Everybody's got an opinion, right? But what's the opinion you hold about yourself? And be truthful. It's not about just looking in the mirror and I'm a good person and that kind of thing. Go deeper. How do you really feel about yourself? You know what? I feel horrible. I let my family down. You know what? I don't feel good about myself. I feel insecure. I feel like people don't like me, right? So if we don't get real with those feelings, the outcome will be people won't like you because you're not real. Okay? So authentic living, the truth that sets us free. Get really real with yourself. And don't try to convince yourself that you like yourself if you don't. Okay? Just start there. Start in that moment of whatever is real for you in that moment. And then to get it out, you can get it out on paper. And all those things that you don't like about yourself, a lot of them you can change if you want to, but you have to want to. And change isn't always easy. But here's the deal. If you keep complaining about things that don't serve you, and then you don't change those things, well, isn't that the definition of insanity? Keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result? Okay, so there's a clue. It's good for me. Who was that who walked by? It's good for me to self-evaluate and decide, you know, what is in my highest interest. And when I get it out on paper, it's like a purging, admitting to myself. It's not to lock it in place. And that is a misnomer. People think that if they feel a feeling like self-hatred, ooh, that's brutal. That if I feel that I will get stuck there. And the opposite is true. The way out is the way through. So you allow the emotion to exist and you feel it through the feeling center. Go to your heart. Go to your emotion center, which is your solar plexus. Okay. You allow it. You allow it. You allow what you are. And recognizing it's okay. You're still alive. I'm still okay with you. Are you still okay with you? You get through it. The way out's the way through. No big deal. No big deal. And every day is a new day and a new opportunity to improve, right? So we can work on becoming our best selves We might not already be our best selves, but we can start at any point to improve the way we treat ourselves, the way we talk to ourselves, and just get into this journey of self-love, self-forgiveness, self-preservation in a way like you've never experienced before. We have many tools of empowerment for you that exist on spiritawarenessfoundation.com, and also more in a political front, if you will, at americansinaction.info. Okay? So there's lots of tools available for you so that you have more tools in your tool belt to be prepared for the coming days, so that you don't have to go against your inner knowing. You don't have to go against God. God has a divine plan for you. And if you choose to take this mission, God will see to it that you're going to be A-OK, right? It's all okay in the eyes of God. Even some of that heinous, awful stuff, I have a feeling on this one. Is that because we are self-creating beings, that these souls that are doing these dastardly deeds, they will self-create their own karmas. Not because anyone's doing anything to them. It might look like it to them, but they will self-create their own karmas, and they will have to resolve them. They will have to answer to God Almighty, right? Just like each one of us. We have to answer to God Almighty. And for those of you who think there is no God, well, there is only God. There is only God. And I just giggle because those who exist, probably, if you don't believe in God, you're probably not going to be watching my channel. But it's not about believing God. You either know God or you don't. Okay? We can tell you otherwise. But I just giggle because in Scientology, on the tone scale, they have right before knowing. Guess what is right underneath knowing? Not knowing. Not knowing is before knowing. So get empty. We don't need to be a know-it-all, because if you're a know-it-all, then there's no room to learn anything. So get empty. Empty yourself so that you can love, you can receive love. When you give love, the very best of the love you are, your cup is pouring out, and that gives it room to be empty, to receive more love, so you can flow more love out. And now your cup keeps filling with divine love, so you can keep giving divine love and give it to others. Share the wealth. I receive the very best of the love of others. I give the very best of the love I am. This is a purification process. Purification across the nation. It's happening. It's happening worldwide. God's people are being called. And there's some babies that are waking up right now. It's okay. Be gentle with them. Hold their hair while they throw up as they go through the cognitive dissonance. We've all been going through it. But coming out the other side, it's a new day and a celebration across the nation, right? Purification. A new station, change the channel, right? What are you listening to? The negative thoughts that tell you you can't, or the positive thoughts that say, yes, I can. Yes, I will. I'm pulling myself up again. I can do this. I am strong. I will overcome. No matter what age you're at, young and old alike, you can pull yourself up and choose love at any time. I choose love. I choose forgiveness. I love you. and I wish you the very best on your path called you. Bye for now.